we can call to order. I don't think Jack is coming tonight. And so I'd like to call to order the Cohasset Select Board meeting of Tuesday, March 4th, 2025 at 7 p.m. Meeting at 91 Sawyer Street, Wilcott Commons in person and also on the Zoom link. I am participating remotely. So can I vote? Any votes we do tonight have to be by roll call because I'm remote. Can I have a call to order?
Chris Plex here. Paul Grady present.
David Frog here.
Ellen Mar present. I'd like to invite everyone there to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
States of America and to the republic
for
which it stands, one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to ask Vice Chair Paul Grady to assist me with people that are in the audience because I can't see them if they want to make public comment or if they're invited guests to speak. So is there anyone that would like to make public comment?
No.
No public comment. Kevin, is there anyone on Zoom?
No.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, so first up is license permits and events, the Cohasset Historical Society Sea Shanty Shindig for Friday, September 5th, 2025. We have 3 licenses to approve. Okay, so name and address.
Abigail Alvis, 52 Stockbridge Street.
Okay, so this is a repeat event. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about it?
So we had the event last year and we had, I think, 2 food trucks. We had, what was that gentleman? We had a gentleman come and sing sea shanties. And we just had a great time between the Maritime Museum and the end of Elm Street. And it went great. I don't remember exactly how many people, but it was quite a few and people said they had a wonderful time. So we'd love to do it again.
Okay. Chief, quickly, do you have any comment on this?
No, as Abigail said, this was a great event last year. This will be the second year. There was no issues whatsoever, and it's really sort of a fun event on Friday night. So we have no problem with this, and we'll fine tune the traffic details as we get closer to September.
Okay, great. All right, so can I have a motion to approve the event permit for the Cohasset Historical Society Sea Shanty Shindig Friday, September 5th, 2025?
So moved.
Second.
Second, all in favor, roll call.
Chris Plex, aye. Paul Grady, aye.
David Frog, aye.
Ellen Mar, aye. Also for the same event, a one-day liquor license approval. Chief, any concerns about that?
No, she's Abigail in the society. They work closely with Tracy, and we'll fine tune those things. But there were no issues last year whatsoever.
Okay, so can I have a motion to approve the one-day liquor license for the same event?
So moved. Second.
All in favor, roll call.
Chris Plex, aye. Paul Grady, aye.
David Frog, aye.
Ellen Mar, aye. And finally, a one-day entertainment license for the same event. Can I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Roll
Chris
call.
Plex, aye. Paul Grady, aye.
David Frog, aye.
Ellen Mar, aye. Thank you very much. Thanks, Abigail.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, next up is the 3 Beach Mini Half Marathon for Saturday, September 27th, 2025. Again, a repeat event. This has been going on for several years, right, Chief?
Yeah, I want to say 10 years now. Again, a great event. Have a great safety plan. You were prepared to implement that again this fall, and no issues with this. And the organizers have been great to work with.
Okay. Mr. Grady, is there anyone there for the event?
Anybody for the event tonight?
Half
With me?
marathon.
Half marathon? No.
No? Okay. Everything was pretty self-explanatory in the application, and again, it's a repeat event. So can I have a motion to approve the 3 Beach Minimum Half Marathon for Saturday, September 27th, 2025?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Chris Plex, aye. Paul Grady, aye.
David Frog, aye.
Ellen Mar, aye. Okay, great. Next up is the Inebri Art Market Entertainment License for April 12th, May 10th, July 12th, August 9th, September 13th, and October 11th. We previously approved the event. This is an art event on the Common. I believe these are Saturdays, and now they're looking for entertainment licenses. Is there anyone there from that event? No. If I recall correctly, they were looking to have, some guitarists and folk singers and things like that. Chief, any concern about an entertainment license?
No, this was organized by, by the town itself. We invited these folks in, and the gentleman was at the last meeting, and,
Mhm.
we're just trying to fine tune this, but it seems like a very, not a big footprint, and we can fine tune things further if we need to.
Okay, great. So can I have a motion to approve the Inebri Art Market Entertainment License for the dates previously recited?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, roll call?
Chris Plex, aye.
Paul Grady, aye.
David Frog, aye.
Ellen Mar, aye. Great, thank you. So next up is the Friends of Holly Hill presentation and discussion. Is Ms. Coffey
Yep.
there?
We've got plenty of people. for
We've
this.
got a lot of people coming up.
Okay,
That's not a problem. Hello, Ellen.
hello, Mark. Okay,
Thanks for having us in tonight. My name is Mark DiGiacomo, and I am the chairman of the Friends of Holly Hill Farm, which is the group that operates the farm at Holly Hill. Tonight, we wanted to give a brief presentation and then be available to answer questions about our application to the CPC for funds. When we think of Cohasset, I think a lot of us think about all the special places in town. Common, the Village, the Harbor, Sandy Beach, Rocky Beach, and on and on. That's what really makes Cohasset, Cohasset. And I think Holly Hill Farm is on the cusp of joining that group. In a town which used to support way back dozens of farms, there's now only one, Holly Hill. It's all that's left. Holly Hill Farm is owned by Jean White and her children. Jean is, I believe, 89 years old. And if you don't know Jean, you should. She is a force of nature, but she's 89. Her kids don't live around Cohasset, and they're all, in their 60s, I'm guessing, early 60s. I hope I'm not aging anybody. Jean and her family desperately want the farm to remain a farm and for us to buy the farm. However, we are talking about 5.23 acres on Jerusalem Road. And that's obviously very, very valuable land. And that's what we want to preserve. The farm, as you may know, is an organic farm, which is cool, but it's so much more than that. It's an educational farm, and my colleagues will talk a little in a few minutes about how many children are taught by our teachers, both at the farm and at various schools in the area. They're also going to talk about how we help the food insecure in our community and a nearby community. And the literally tons of food every year, good organic food that we supply to these folks. Our campaign committee has been working for months on what we call the quiet phase of our fundraising efforts, and they've had incredible success. And we're raising money to both buy the farm, renovate the historic buildings on the farm, and to build a new building to make the farm even stronger. In order to reach these goals of saving and improving the farm, we want to have a public-private partnership. Public with the town of Cohasset through the CPC. Because by doing so, we can preserve the farm for generations to come. and ensure that it joins the pantheon of special places that make Cohasset the town we love. And with that, I'll turn it over to Carolyn.
Actually, to
Oh, to
Meredith.
Meredith. Okay.
Meredith.
Sure.
Will,
right. Good evening, Meredith Laban, Executive Director of the Friends of Holly Hill Farm. Just wanted to give you a little bit about the programming that we do at the farm. The farm was really founded, the Friends was founded to use the farm as a living and breathing classroom. Last year in 2024, we served over 20,000 students, teaching them about sustainable farming, about nutrition, climate change, conservation, and ecology. We worked with over 40 different schools, ranging from Boston to Brockton, down to Pembroke, and all the towns in between. Our summer program has been voted best of the South Shore for the last 2 years, and is a fun place for students of all ages to come together and work and get their hands dirty, all while playing off screens. Another program that Mark mentioned is our Farm to Food Pantry program that Johnny Belber runs. Last year, donated over 4,000 pounds of organic fresh vegetables to the Cohasset Food Pantry, to the Situate Food Pantry, and then in Quincy, in Weymouth, Hingham, and Hull. And that is a program where we don't just donate, we also teach high school students, many of them that attend Cohasset Public High School, about food insecurity, giving them a chance to learn about farming and to get some of those needed community service hours. We also here in Cohasset, I said we work with 20,000 students, but we also work with that does include all of the students in Cohasset Public Schools. We work each year at the Osgood School doing lessons during the fall, winter, and spring. We go to each classroom 5 different times, and all students come out for a field trip. Over at Deer Hill School, we just recently helped to build 9 new accessible garden boxes. We also go and do lessons each season with the students there. We also helped to build a new compost system there. I don't know if you've seen it, but up at Cohasset Middle School, we worked with the middle school and built 24 new garden beds. And we're working with the middle and the high schoolers to help grow produce that they're trying to use in their lunches. And we work with the agricultural club as well. We do work with all these students, which is great, but we also really do open up the farm to everyone. We do workshops with adults on sustainability, on gardening. You could come this Saturday to learn about companion planting. We really are a space for adults to come and gather as well, through volunteering, through learning, through coming to our events. And the farm it is private property. We lease it from the White family, but it is open and free, dawn to dusk, 365 days a year. You can come and walk at the farm. And we really do want to keep it accessible and free to all.
Which brings us to why we're here today. The White family plans to sell the land that the farm operates under, and
Sorry, and you are? just-
I'm sorry, Carolyn Coffey, 63 Highland Avenue. Thanks, Paul. So the White family is selling the land there. As Mark mentioned, their first choice by far is to sell it to the Friends of Holly Hill Farm and have it continue to be an ongoing operation. It is the last working farm in Cohasset. And we are asking the CPC to help us make this a reality for the entire community. We recognize we're asking them for $1 million, which is to put in perspective, we're looking at a $5.5 million capital raise to make all of these plans come true. So it's about 18% of the total. The first priority is to purchase the land that will need $2.5 million to complete that part of the transaction. We do have a P&S signed with the family, but it requires us to have the money in hand by the first quarter of next year. Once we own the land, our intention is to renovate the historic barn as you first drive down the driveway and see it straight ahead where the market is on the weekends. And we're going to upgrade our traffic flow and make it safer. We're going to make the building more accessible. We're going to upgrade our electrical and connectivity. Right now, like just yesterday, somebody was trying to teach a cooking class to kids after school, and she couldn't have the lights on and the oven on at the same time because there wasn't enough power. So it's definitely rustic, and we do intend to keep that rustic feel, but we want to be able to more effectively deliver all the programming that the staff has been so wonderful at developing. And in the third phase, after we make those improvements, we intend to build a new indoor-outdoor programming space, something akin to what the sailing club is like, where you can open the doors when the weather is nice, but it will allow us to continue our programming when Mother Nature isn't being quite as cooperative, same with our fundraising and everything. So all of that, the improvements would be another $3.5 million in addition to the 2.5 million to buy the land, for a $5.5 million total capital raise. Since becoming involved, I have learned a lot about large capital campaigns. This is the largest one that we think has ever happened in Cohasset, but it is standard practice to develop a gift pyramid and kind of estimate how many gifts at certain levels you would need in order to ensure your success. And if we are going to be successful making this vision a reality for the entire community, we will need at least $1 million gift at the top. So that is why we've asked for that. In addition, there are other grant opportunities and significant donors who have indicated they will be more interested in learning more after we have reached a certain threshold of commitments. The good news is we have already, having only just started, gotten $1.6 million worth of commitments for the entire thing, a little over $1 million of which is available for the land purchase. Some of it will be over phases. Right now, just in closing, we'd just like to say, yeah, we can't imagine a better project for the CPC to support, because it really ticks all three of the boxes that they are designed to support: open space and recreation, historical preservation, and affordable housing. When we build our new building, we would put apartments up top for our assistant growers. They can't afford to live here on what we can afford to pay them, and we've had trouble attracting those workers to our area to help us. So that's part of it. While that wouldn't count for 40B because it's worker-related housing, in the spirit of things, it certainly helps bring in people that couldn't otherwise live here. But certainly open space and recreation and historical preservation, you couldn't argue with. So as one of our donors noted, that I love repeating, we really have kind of a generational opportunity here to give an asset to the town in the same way that 100 years ago, a group of people in town were willing to buy the land that became Sandy Beach. And now we have the chance to do it again and help preserve one of those quirky things that makes Cohasset Cohasset. And just to quote one other somebody, you can always build houses on land, but you can't make a farm on houses. You can't go backwards. So that's what we're doing. And we're right now where we are. We presented to the CPC in January. David was there, and we are in the next couple of weeks making sure that everybody on the CPC has the opportunity to walk the property and see the 5.23 acres and what we're talking about, the buildings and all that kind of stuff.
And you all are obviously invited too.
Yeah.
If you have any interest, just let us know and we'll give you the grand tour.
So that's what's going on.
Any questions?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, any questions from the board, Mr. Plex?
I can't say enough good things about Holly Hill. Thank you for pursuing this. You have my absolute support.
Thank you, Chris.
I'm gonna echo what my colleague just said. You have my full support. I do have a question. I mean, I pass a lot of farm. You guys giving any thought to turning it into somewhat of a money-making venture? Just breaking even, like, it's Apple Farms. I'm not saying Holly Hill's gonna say that, but they say the vegetables, for instance. Just something to help carry.
I'm sorry, Paul.
It's
say it
a
again.
nonprofit, and
So
so unfortunately, with everything that we do, about a third of our total operating budget is fundraising, just to support everything. I think, we we don't want to charge so much that it's only available to.
No,
certain-
I didn't mean.
Both the vegetables and the programming. I mean, you know, we're trying to find a balance between making it available to as many people as we can and being able to support ourselves.
Well, that's you just hit the nail right in the head. Question. So you guys have my full support.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
But you know.
Mr. Farag?
Thank you. I was able to see part of this presentation by being on the select board member on CPC. But it's a great project and it's really interesting to reiterate the ties that it has to the Cohasset schools, that everybody from Osgood up through high school gets to go through there and learn about this important aspect of farming, which is important in its own right, but it's even more important here in Cohasset, where it's part of the history of Cohasset as well. And to think that this is the last farm in Cohasset, the last working farm, is a sad note. But it would be sadder if we lost that last farm that we had in Cohasset. So I fully support the cause here for Holly Hill. And I think it's great. And it checks all the boxes. It's got the historical, the open space, and the other one as well. So thank you and good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah. I won't repeat what my colleagues have said, so I'll just say ditto. Mr. Senior, will this go back before CPC? Will they take a vote?
Yeah, yes, this is in front of CPC and I'll be taking a vote at one of their future meetings.
Okay,
I understand that maybe at the end of March.
at the end of March. Okay, well then we'll circle back based on that outcome. And Chris, do we vote on CPC or not? Vote to support? We do, right?
You do.
We do. So we'll circle back after their meeting or your next meeting with them, and we'll put it on our agenda for a vote, because tonight was just a discussion. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Great job.
Thank you for the time.
Okay, next up is the Public Safety Building, and we have Chief Quigley. I think I saw Chief Dockeray walk in. And
I think we have Dan Pilata here, our OPM, as well in the audience.
He's here.
okay,
Well, Dave, Chris.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody.
all right. Take it away, Chief.
Okay, Kevin, can you make that full screen, the presentation? Okay, there we go. Took a second to come up. Well, thank you. I'm excited to be here to give the board an update, and thank you to our OPM Dan Pilata for helping and guiding us through this, as well as Chief Dockeray and especially Michelle Leary. I know she's a little under the weather tonight, and the whole team from the town manager's office. This has truly been an all hands on deck endeavor, from working with the building department, the building inspector, Nick from facilities to talk about the proposed buildings, mechanics, Selectman Brady, who's been at almost every meeting, and a lot of others I didn't mention, but there's been a true effort here. So here we are, and if you can have the next slide, Kevin. This is the team, the project team that we've assembled. Again, I talked about Dan Pilata, the OPM. He's been really a breath of fresh air to bring in on this. He has just a depth and wealth of knowledge, as you can see from his little blurb here. He's not giving you the half of it, but he is a past Plymouth County Commissioner, a member of the Hanover Select Board, and also served on many building committees. So he brings a lot of experience. He understands small town municipal government, and that's been really, really helpful guiding us through this. And he's been on board since I think August. And the architect that we contracted with is HKT Architects, sort of a boutique firm out of Charlestown, and they've been really wonderful too. If I haven't driven, if between myself and Glenn Pratt, if we haven't driven them crazy that they're not leaving. They're with us for the long haul. Next slide, please. This is just sort of a timeline on the project history. If you look down at the bottom, we started in November 2023 when we received funding from town meeting. It was $10.4 million to purchase 135 King Street. It's a for people who don't know, it was an existing office building, 2 floors plus a mezzanine. It's almost like a weird third floor. The purchase was complete back on April 1st of last year. And then into May, we issued RFPs for an owner's project manager and an architect. In August, we hired P3. And shortly after that, with guidance from P3, we hired HKT as our architect, and we immediately jumped right into it. In a few days, we completed, myself and Chief Dockeray, in our working group. In our working group is a couple citizens at large, Dan Tarpey and Rich Kinship, as well as Glenn Pratt, and of course myself and Chief Dockeray and Michelle Leary. But we quickly completed a needs assessment and programming for the building on King Street, and also what the next steps were with the Elm Street building, which currently houses both the police and the fire station. That building was built in 1961 to serve us for 50 years, and it's done that and more. One of the things that we learned during this whole process came in October of 24. As part of this process and our due diligence in making this project a reality, is we had to bring this building from the office building that it is a level 2 building, and Dan can probably speak to this. I'll let Dan talk about that. We have to bring it from a level 2 building to a level 4 building, which is public safety grade. And maybe Dan can just talk to the board and explain what that means.
Thank you, Chief. So changing the structure of the building to withstand obvious catastrophes that can occur, especially along the coast with the winds and the rains. The building has to be able to withstand much more pressures laterally. This building doesn't have that type of a structure, so we have to add some pieces of structure to the building within the structure to give the building the rigidity to bring it up to a level 4, which includes foundations, grade beams, and a couple of cross braces. You see the cross braces all the time. When you see buildings going up, you don't think much about them, but they're there for lateral load, and this building needs lateral load to be classified as a public safety center.
So when we finished with the structural engineering study, we took a deep dive into code compliance, and all this is really new to me. I've never really built anything. I own a house, I've owned a couple houses, but this is a whole different animal. But we took a deep dive into code compliance. We hired a vendor that came in and really, they actually opened up walls, and along the structural engineer opened up walls, and code compliance came in and looked at everything from exit signs to handicap ramps, railings on stairways, just from top to bottom. And this is for both properties. This is for the property at 135 King Street, and also the property on Elm Street, both the police and fire station. That generated a report which is hundreds of pages long, and these things are posted. These studies are posted on the town website under the public safety building page. It's also linked from the CPD website, but you can read these code compliance documents. And the Elm Street campus is really lacking some major problems there as far as code, and we have to get that up to code. King Street is a different story. There's existing stairways and things like that. We're going to need an elevator, and there's going to have to be some changes, but not as extensive as Elm Street. But once that was done, we had a pretty good a baseline of where we're at. In the meantime, we reached out to U.S. Senator Markey's office. Emergency management did. Members of our team, of our committee, met with Senator Markey's staff, and we're really trying to flesh out whether there's any federal grant money for Emergency Operations Center. because that's part of the big picture here. The operations center will be inside the police department. We're gonna move that operations center that we use during storms and major events out of the Deer Hill School basement, so we're not interrupting the learning process in the school day, to the new building at 135 King Street. So they assured us, Senator Markey's office said they would assist in any way possible. And, talks are still ongoing with those folks. Fast forward to December of 24, just a few months ago, we did a major site study, soil testing, because we weren't exactly sure what's in the ground up there because of the building's previous life. There was a CV engineering was there and some various properties, and it turned out the soil was really tough. A lot of clay. It doesn't drain too well. So there was some challenges there with wastewater management and runoff. Nothing insurmountable, but there's definitely going to be a ton of site work that has to be completed. We have to remove a lot of material from that hill, and we're still trying to be creative with how we're going to deal with that. But there were definitely some issues there, and Dan can speak to that towards the end of this. In January, 2 months ago, we reviewed all the studies. We dove into design development and schematic design with the architects. Had a ton of meetings, both in person and on Zoom. This consumes time every single day of the week. We've also engaged our state delegation. We had Senator O'Connor down to 135 King Street along with our representative Mosquito, and they toured the building. And we talked about permitting with MassDOT and receiving state assistance for dealing with the traffic in that area of King Street and installing emergency lights that would help people get out of that driveway at 135 King Street. They committed to be fully on board, and they were going to help us to the extent that they can, but they were pretty positive about that. And back in early couple of days ago, really, towards the beginning of the month, on the 1st, we took a deep dive into the plans that were presented by the architect, both myself and Chief Dockeray, Michelle, and Dan. And we reduced some of the scope of the project. Some of the things, there's wants and needs. There was some wants in the design as presented by the architect, and we really boiled it down to what was actually needed. I've said this all along. We're going to do this right, but this building won't be the envy of every police chief on the South Shore. We're just trying to get in with a reasonable budget and move the operation to a proper facility. And we fine tune the programming, and the architect come up with a final conceptual drawing. And next slide, please. So we've divided this into a bunch of phases. Dan, if you want to speak to some of the phases, I don't want to hog the whole time here. If you want to jump in at any point, just give me the high sign.
You were doing great, Chief, but you make my job a lot easier. So phase one obviously is putting the team together and exploring the buildings and finding out the issues that we have. Phase two, which sort of began at the same time as phase one, was to start working on programming and adjacencies. There's a lot of different functions in a police station and a fire substation. And for them to work properly, they have to all fit together, just like puzzle pieces in a giant puzzle. So we worked on that in the programming section to get all the adjacencies and the programming correct. And then we took the programming and turned it into a schematic design using every square inch possible of the existing King Street building, as well as the Elm Street building. But the King Street building, it's clear, obviously, with a substation, we're gonna have to have an addition on one side, and to have a sally port, which is necessary for prisoner transport, we needed an addition on the other side of the building. So we worked on trying to develop the most efficient way to use the existing building that you purchased and maximize the amount of space in the building. The third floor that Chief had talked about as being kind of a funky third floor is actually not a floor that you can use. And nor can we use it. So we're gonna use that for all of our mechanical equipment and all of our spaces so that we don't take up any other space. So that the existing two floors of the building can be maximized for public safety use. When we finished with the schematic design, we went into design development, and, you know, usually design development is just a fine tune of schematic design, but your staff members really took a hard look at design development. We actually stopped, took a step back and almost did design development twice as they were looking at every little nook and cranny and, you know, where do the radios go? Where are the charging stations gonna go? I didn't understand this was gonna be like this or like that. So we really did a really fine-tuned design development with a lot of participation from everybody. The site is a difficult site. It is not a site that can't be conquered. We're almost 100% there with our engineering work that is necessary, not for the wastewater, Chief, but for the stormwater. The wastewater system that is there is adequate for the new use of the building. It was designed for a larger use than what will be there with the uses that are proposed. But we will have to design an alternative system in the event that the septic system failed in decades from now. You'll always have to have a backup, and it doesn't have a backup. So we're going to be working on designing a backup system in relation to that system. We have talked to the Board of Health about septic, and we are working currently now on the stormwater and getting those calculations to work. The next phase that we are just starting is construction documents. And construction documents are basically every little nuance in the building gets detailed. As a public bid, we have to literally detail every screw in the building, every hinge, every doorknob, every little piece to this building. And if we don't do a really good job on that, the professional public bidders out there will take advantage of us. So we're taking our time to do the construction documents correctly. Concurrently with the construction documents, we have started the process of pre-qualifying bidders for the project. It is the intent to go to appropriation with a bid in hand and not an estimate for the King Street project, and to go with Elm Street, which will be a year later, with a fully scoped design development estimate. So when we get to town meeting, we can answer any question that anyone in the community has. We want to be able to be open, truthful about everything regarding the project. Phase three will be construction of King Street. Phase 4 will be construction of Elm Street, and phase 5 will be closing it out and closing up the books and moving on to whatever the town's next project would be.
Kevin, next slide, please. This slide just, shows an overview of an aerial overview of the map, but more importantly, on the bottom right corner, this is what, when this becomes reality, this is the problems that are going to be solved by this project happening. There'll be faster response times from 3A Beechwood, for the 3A and Beechwood area. We'll have updated facilities to accommodate ADA. We'll have a law compliant facility with cells and detention area. As you know, as I've said before in public meetings, I get a citation every fall from the state because of the shape the cells are in. And it's not an issue of paint or missing screws. It's just that they're ancient cells from a different era. They're bars. They just don't use bars anymore. So we're one of the only departments in the area that is still like that. And again, the state cites us every year, and hopefully we can get beyond that with this project. The Emergency Operations Center will be out of the D Hill basement, so we're not interrupting the school day. One of the really cool things about this, on that third floor on King Street, in that mezzanine area, we've worked with IT and we've worked with Dan and the architect and Michelle to make a town data center. So a secure area for town computer infrastructure that will, be climate controlled, a proper place that's secure and really a fortress. So our data is secure and protected. And that's, we do our best now, but this will bring us into the future, and there'll be room for expansion. And IT is pretty excited about that. If we fast forward to, phase 5 of the project, the Elm Street campus, we're looking at, it's going to house the fire department. The fire department will actually have a training room and proper locker room and proper ADA compliant facilities. But beyond that, there's going to be room for town offices, and things are still shaking out, but it looks like, and Chris can correct me if I'm wrong, but some of the permitting departments will be located on Elm Street. So we're looking at the building department, maybe planning, in operations like that. So it's one-stop shopping for builders and contractors. It's one level, walk right in the door, and you have if you're doing some kind of type of project or looking for a permit, and we're looking at customer experience and having one-stop shopping. Fire departments right there, they can review plans. So that should be really a game changer for the end user. This new station on King Street, as Dan said, we've maximized every inch of the place, and it'll be a proper place for the next 50 years. There were two trains that thought we could build for today, or we could build for the future, and the consensus was to build for the future. And I think we've said that at one of the meetings prior. So we're looking ahead, and we're looking at even we have a couple of offices that can be changed around to meet the needs of the department going forward. Just trying to project on what the challenges will be in 10, 15, 20 years. And one of the things that we realized, and Chief Darker can speak to this too, but this will help with the employee recruitment and retention. If you look around, Situate has a new station, Marshfield has a new station, Norwell has a new station, Hingham has a new station, Quincy, Rockland, would us and Howard, the only people who haven't updated their public safety infrastructure in years. And that becomes, with the people we're hiring, it becomes a real issue. And if they're torn between going to one department or another, that a lot of times, if they can have their own locker, if they don't have to carry their stuff in their car, that's the thing that drives their final decision. So this should help with the employee recruitment and retention. Next slide. So this is just the floor plans for the building. I know they're hard to see. I sent them under separate cover to the board, and we'll have these available for people to look at. And the next slide, please. And this is the conceptual drawing that the architect has come up with. If you notice, in the center is the existing building. On the left is the fire substation. It's 2 bays, and on the far right is the police sally port. The first bay is prisoner detention. Second bay is a regular garage, and the third bay is for evidence storage, large evidence, like if we have to seize a car, if there's a bad accident, we have to seize cars and we hold them. Next slide. And I'll let Dan take this.
So we want to be as open, as transparent as we possibly can. We have begun to do newsletters and post them to your website through Michelle. As now that we've finished design development, there are pretty pictures and things for people to actually digest as opposed to words. You'll start to see more and more of that going forward. The community engagement doesn't stop with just the written word or the posted word. This group is, dedicated to going to any group necessary to to explain the need for for what we're doing and explain each part and piece to it. So as we move forward, we'll be hopping around to some of the boards, the finance committee, advisory board, your energy committee, as this building is going to be really energy efficient when we're done, compared to what it is today. And things, certain groups that, you know, may say, you know, why do we need this? You know, we have an existing fire station, we have an existing police station. Why is there truly a need? We're gonna walk through and make sure that everyone is fully educated before they come to town meeting, so that, you know, an educated public can make the right decision at town meeting.
And we can open it up to any questions the board may have, and this is the last slide.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Dan.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Flex, any questions?
Great presentation. Glad you're keeping the project moving. Appreciate that you're focusing on that community engagement piece, because just like you said, we want people, when they get to town meeting, to already have the information. So I'm
Correct.
glad you're well ahead of that. Thank you.
Mr. Grady?
Having a small part in meeting. It's a question, just a rhetorical, but Chief Quigley, John F. Kennedy was president when the Elm Street building was put up, right?
Yes, that's true. 1960, late 61,
So that's
62.
over 62, 63 years ago. In all that time, what has Cohasset Fire and Police asked of the town by way of financing?
I think it's as far as infrastructure, there was an upgrade, I think, in the late 80s. And then again, there was another, you know, we hired female officers in the early 90s, and they had to retrofit the station with female locker. There was only 2 lockers for females. And then again, in I think 2003, John, right? We had to raise the roof of the fire station, and we added a small conference room in the police station. But it's been very modest. But we're actually out of room now. Even if we wanted to add on to that building or change it, we're just out of room. There's no. If you look at the parking lot, we have Quonset huts up. We have storage containers with. We started out with 3 garages. We're down to we had to take one out of service and cinder block it up just to hold evidence. You know, when I started, it was just a phone and a microphone on the desk, and now things have just changed, you know, unbelievably. There's computers at every desk, and strict rules regarding evidence. As you know, we have some major cases, you know, in cases that garner international attention. You don't want to botch the evidence in something like that. You know, Mr. Farag can speak to that as an attorney. You know, it's the first thing attorneys go after. So if you don't have proper procedures and a proper place to keep evidence, and you know, there's going to be big trouble. So we're just at that point where we've just outgrown the place. It was originally, you know, it was built for, I think, 8 people, eight officers. And right now we have 37 employees, 21 officers in total, and then civilian employees. So it's just a different time, and the building has served us well, but it's time to move on.
Well, the figure I have in mind over 62 years that I've picked up is $1.8 million for small infrastructural upgrades, tune-ups, adding the women's locker rooms, raising the roof. $1.8 million over 62 years. That factors into about maybe $49,000 over that period of time, a year, and that's all you've asked.
Pretty good investment.
Yeah, I'd say we have a hell of an investment.
Yeah.
And so our population, both chiefs, has grown by, especially over moving across 3A towards the Beechwood area. And because that's a hell of a trip coming from Elm Street up over towards Beechwood, which used to be primarily farms, which Holly Hill was in front of us a little while ago. So what has our population grown to now, Chief? Or chiefs?
8,300.
8,300.
About 8,300.
And I'm gonna guess when that fire station was put up, we we're probably tinkering around 4,000, maybe 4,200.
I think when that fire station was put up, there was a fire station in Beechwood that closed during Prop 2.5.
Yeah,
And one in West Corner also.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so that one building is it's housed and combined with police and fire, how many people now? Police and fire combined in that small building?
We're supposed to be at 26. So 26 members of the department.
26 of the fire department, you
We're
said.
21 sworn. 37 total, but 21 uniform officers.
Yeah, you kind of packed at the gills.
Yeah.
And I've seen the Quonset huts.
Yeah.
So, and just the last, and this is definitely rhetorical. It's primarily based in the town, and I've said this before, but can any one of you give me a price that could be possibly put on the safety of our citizens and of our police and fire departments?
There is no price.
I didn't think so.
There is no price.
No.
And so then I agree with my colleague is we get this out, socialize it. It's a fantastic program. It's a fantastic plan. It's something that's got to come down the pike. So obviously you know where I'm going with it. I support it 120%. Again, I want just people to know is what price do you put on safety? And what price do you put on the safety of your teams and the people that keep this town safe? So, but thank you so much. It's a great presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Farag?
Thank you. I just want to ask Chief Docker, because one of the points on there was the improved response times. And so what was your expectation of what the response time would be by having that substation over there as opposed to on Elm Street?
It probably will cut some of half our response time to certain parts of town, right? So North Cohasset, it's about a 9-minute response time. The Beechwood Ball Field is about a 10-minute response time. And one of the issues too that we have that wasn't mentioned is we have a commuter rail that cuts this town right in half, straight right in half. And we've had a couple incidents where the train has blocked access on one of our roadways to a certain part of town. And that train doesn't move until the T says it's safe to move. So then we have to now figure an alternate way around, and it's going to add additional response times. If we're talking right now, train going through the center right now. I know for Pleasant Street Crossing, once that gate comes down, it's a 2-minute wait for that train to go through and the gates to come up. So that adds another 2 more minutes to our response time, just to the hillside, which where I live is maybe about a 4-minute response time. So that adds 2 minutes. So that's key, very key to our response to hopefully to get to a scene to stabilize, whether it be a medical or a house fire, or a gas leak, or some kind of electrical emergency, that we can hopefully get there in time and stabilize it so it doesn't become a bigger incident.
Great, thank you. And so I hope everyone hears that who's living on the Beechwood side, North Cohasset, is that this would cut the response times in half by having that fire substation, among all the other benefits of the fire police. This project is not a want, it is a need, and it's a very desperate need for Cohasset. For far too long, there's a saying goes, you're putting 10 pounds in a 5-pound bag. Well, if you've gone on a tour of our police and fire station on 62 Elm, we're probably putting 15 pounds in a 5-pound bag because there's just no room in there for both departments, not only to be there, but even individually. So this will help space everything out, help by moving with response times. And I think as the police chief had mentioned, with all the different kinds of cases we've had in Cohasset, and if you've been following those, whether you're reading the newspaper, you follow the police on Facebook, you're seeing the types of crimes that we're having in Cohasset. These are far different crimes than we had 10 or even 15 years ago. The game has changed. And so to make sure our fire department, our police department are brought into the 21st century and that they've got the training rooms, the training, the equipment, and the stations to be able to deliver those services to the citizens of Cohasset is something that we should all support. So as we go through the process, I hope that anyone out there who has any questions or needs to understand the project more, please either contact anybody here or the town manager's office. And we will personally bring you on a tour if you need to, if you don't think that we need a new fire and police station. Thank you.
Chief, I
Thank
have one
you.
more question. Sorry,
Go ahead, Paul.
just how many ambulances do we have?
We have 2 ambulances.
All right, so can you tell me where they're stored? And I do think we have one down behind Town Hall.
Correct. So our primary ambulance responds out of Elm Street, But when our primary ambulance breaks down, we need to put up our backup. So it's kept behind town hall. And because it's kept behind town hall and not under our roof, it's not stored with all the proper EMS gear that we need to run it. So if we need to spin that up, it's gonna take us about a half hour to spin that up, okay? If it's under our roof, it will take us 30 seconds to spin it up. Because if it's stored under our roof, under our control, we can put all the supplies on it and deploy it when we need it.
So if we have, for instance, one of those ambulances, the active ambulances over at South Shore Hospital or Evoke or someplace like
Mhm.
that, and we have another emergency way across town,
If we have the staffing,
that's gonna cause some problems, isn't it?
yeah, but if we have the staffing, eventually instead of relying on mutual aid to come into town from Situate or Hingham or Hull, or even sometimes Norwell, Rockland and Marshfield, we can staff that ambulance and respond quicker.
Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. I just have a couple of comments. So in the project history, you talked about, going out to Senator Markey for some funding and also having Senator O'Connor and Representative Moschino in. If there's any support that we can lend, if it would be helpful to have the select board, pen something in support of all this and your grants and applications, let us know. We're happy to do so. Not that we would move the needle, but you never know.
No, that was one of the things that our state delegation and the federal folks said, we're gonna need, the local leaders are gonna have to be, heard on this and be behind it. So that's great news and thank you.
Okay, sure. There was a question from Katie Dugan on the Zoom chat. Is there going to be a meeting room at 135 King Street that perhaps other town boards and committees could use?
Yes, there's a large public meeting room. It's also an EOC. It can be spun up into an EOC, but there's a large meeting room that will house up to 49 people. And it's wired, it's proposed to be wired with multiple TV screens, and also you'd be able to go live on cable or have a Zoom meeting, a Zoom meeting like this. So there is public meeting space. Yes, that was one of the things that we really focused on. We wanted to be able to expand the places where the town, where people can meet, committees and boards and even town groups. It's
Great.
everybody's building.
Great, thank you. And then I just have one last thing. So Chief Dockery and Chief Quigley, in your budget presentations, you had a slide, and forgive me, I don't have it in front of me, but you had a slide about the, the escalation in the number of calls over a period of time. And I would definitely include that kind of data in your public outreach programs, because it was quite dramatic. And that coupled with level staffing, it really shows how a new building needs to be efficient and support what you're doing, because what you're doing so much more than ever before. But I thought that was very impactful in your budget.
Well, thank you. That's great advice. And we'll absolutely follow up with that.
Okay,
Definitely.
all right.
If I may just, one caveat, not a caveat, one clarification. Mr. Bellata and the chiefs are talking about town meeting. When they say town meeting, they mean special town meeting in November.
Yes.
So,
Right.
right, just want to be clear, so this is not heading for May,
Not annual.
not annual, but it is heading for the town meeting, which instead of September, I think we're now looking at November. So we're gonna circle back in a couple of weeks and then get a better date on that.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Senior. All right, are there any questions in the audience, Mr. Grady? I can't see.
Any questions, anybody? I think we've wrapped it up.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate the presentation. Keep us
Thank you.
posted.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have a series of FY 26 budget presentations. First up is permits, planning, and inspections. We all got the materials in our packets.
Schedule for 2024.
Thank you.
That's that.
All right, Mr. Hallen, you may proceed.
John Hallen, permits, inspections, department, and, I think we have our, budget here. That you see in front of me. I think initially personnel has, gone from, 285.12 to 290.345. Expenses have gone up, from 960 to 13,300. And then the personnel on the building commissioner side has gone up from 11,955 to 16,610. And then expenses have gone up from 80,145 to 104,220. Some of those expenses on that side has been for in FY26, we probably will have some more inspections with some of the new buildings come up in town, so we've had a little bit of pushing for that to cover them, so. And I don't know if there are any questions to you guys. We also just gave you a list of where we're at for permitting fees. We're for 2024, we're approximately the same level as 2023. And looking into 25, we're probably similar to that level as well. Expectations maybe a little bit more, but it seems to be fairly consistent.
Okay, so before we move on to the other departments in our packet, does anyone have any questions about permitting and inspections? No, I just had one.
Sure.
In the changes in budget goals and objectives, number 2, the extra hours funds. Is that overtime or is it a stipend?
That's some of that has been into the plumbing, gas, and electrical inspections. We've kind of got that separate. So if we have emergencies, the building has to be boarded up or something like that, we have the extra funds to do that rather than ask for it.
Okay,
So that's generally where it is. Myself and the staff, we really overtime, I don't get any overtime, but. And the
Okay.
inspectors are paid per inspection, so.
okay, all right, thank you. So that was my only question on that. Should we move on to, John, you also oversee conservation and the planning board? Those aren't really budgets, that's just. And the zoning board of appeals and everything else that was in this packet. Those are
Yeah,
just
so-
committee responsibilities you have?
Yes, an overseeing of staff. I don't think I know. There's been a minimal increase in each of those departments, and the fee we did review for planning board last year, and those were initiated. Currently reviewing fees for conservation. I think that proposal should be up in a couple months. And zoning and fees were also reviewed last year and updated. So we're kind of pretty much where the other towns are for those departments now.
Okay. Anyone have any comments or questions?
No, very straightforward.
No, great presentation.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, I just noted, John, sorry, on page 60 under zoning board of appeals. Is the zoning advisory committee, that was the zoning bylaw committee, is that still in existence?
I think they might have made all their presentations at the
Yeah.
last town meeting.
Yeah,
So they might be, I don't think they're active at this point. The
Okay.
only thing I anticipate though is that there might be some slight modifications with probably the ADUs that went through now the legislation has passed. They might update that to correspond with the state legislation, but that's, I think everything else they've caught up on.
okay, great, thank you. Thank you. So if nobody has anything, thank you very much, Mr. Hallen.
Thank you.
Okay, Board of Public Health.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Pam Fahey. Here to talk about the health department budget And later in the agenda, there's also the IMA, which is the grant that I have. So I have to kind of talk about it now because it fits into my budget. I can't really talk about the budget without the grant. So, Kevin, do you have my presentation? Okay, I gave it to Tracy. She'll
We have it in the packet.
send it over there.
It was in the packet. That look familiar?
Yeah, all right. So should I just start talking about? Okay.
Tracy, I'm gonna pop it on. Not for us, but for people.
She has to send it to Kevin, the political.
Yeah.
So on the very first page of the packet, you can see the health department personnel. And so it's basically funded from the two sources. It's from the municipal budget. And it's also from this grant. So PHE stands for Public Health Excellence Grant. And I'll dive into the details in a few minutes, but basically, so under the municipal budget, there's the health director, me, public health nurse, and we have a placeholder in there for Nicole. We have like a half-time substance abuse coordinator. So she's in year 10 of the 10-year, she's in year 8 of a 10-year grant. So eventually we'd like to start like putting the funds in there so that if she has to transfer over into the health department, we'll have the money there. So this money won't actually get used in FY 2026. It's a placeholder. But the grant has allowed us to hire a regional social worker, regional community health worker, a regional public health nurse, and a regional social worker interns that have kind of cycled in and out. And you can tell it's like a real social worker focused group that we have. And that's because, you know, you've heard from the police and he's talked about how they have such an increase in mental health calls. And so before it was just me and the public health nurse, and we couldn't possibly handle that kind of thing. So we shared this grant with Hingham and with Situate, and all 3 towns have a big need for social work and mental health assistance. So this grant's been great. In terms of if you take away the salaries, the rest of our budget is level funded. A lot of it's kind of from emergency things and we don't even end up using it. Like if we have extra testing for the beaches, if we have a lot of pollution one particular summer, or sometimes the animal control officer will capture like a bat in someone's house that needs to be tested for rabies. So we have like small amounts slotted for those type of things. We have a pretty good sized line item for our substance abuse programs, again, for Safe Harbor, because their budget, their grant is only like 125,000 per year, and it's mostly salaries. The other kind of big ticket item for us, relatively speaking, is medical expenses for about $20,000. And that's mostly to purchase vaccines and the supplies to do the vaccines, but we get reimbursed for vaccines. So private insurance and Medicare, they come back to us. So it's almost just kind of like a level funded type of item. So let me just talk a little bit more about what this grant is, because it's very significant. The Massachusetts Department of Public Health, even before the pandemic, kind of looked and said, you know, what's going on with health departments? There's health departments in Western Mass that weren't doing anything. And there's really like foundational public health services that we're supposed to be giving the communities. And so they realized everybody's got gaps in services somewhere. So they thought the best way to fill in gaps in services would be to have towns kind of group together and share some funds and fill in those gaps and hire additional staff that they could all share. And so we got in on the process very early. I mean, they did it in waves. And we got through one of the first waves. And so they allowed us to have just 3 towns, Cohasset, Situate, and Hingham. And so we get $433,000 per year. And everybody, no matter how big a group is, that's what you get. So it's kind of crazy. So there's like a group that's Quincy, Weymouth, Braintree, Randolph, Holbrook, they're getting 433 and we're getting 433, which is nuts, but good for us. So in this grant, Cohasset, we're the lead municipality. So it's a lot of work. I'm not gonna kid you. It's a lot of work to manage it, but we do receive a 15% stipend for the towns. That comes out to be about $65,000 a year. But it's more than just my department that ends up being impacted by this. So like we process a lot of purchase orders, a lot of invoices. So that means like my admin, Amy, has to do a lot of extra work. People in finance, accounting. Whenever we buy things like computers and iPads, I look to IT to help me with procurement. So really, a lot of people in town are helping us with this. So this is kind of like this extra little bonus to compensate for that. So the next slide, so, you know, what we've done so far with this grant is, one of the services we weren't providing was tobacco inspections. There was a lot of changes to the law during the pandemic, and I remember seeing like these emails coming through from DPH about all this detailed information about tobacco, and I was like up to my eyeballs with, you know, COVID-19. I couldn't even pay attention to it. So now with this grant, I'm able to contract out to an inspector who specializes in all this kind of stuff, and she does inspections in Cohasset and Situate for us. Hingham has a lot of septic. They're 60% septic and 40 sewer. We're like 50-50. So they have a ton of septic, and they couldn't keep up with it. So we have a contractor for them. Boston University is doing a community health needs assessment for all 3 towns, which should help us identify key areas to focus our money in the future. We had a really amazing hoarding disorder training. It was like partly online. We had 8 sessions online. And then when everybody was done, we had a big in-person meeting in Situate. And it included representatives from health and fire and police. And that was really, really good. We have iPads, food inspection software for Cohasset and Hingham. It was great this year to do everything on an iPad and upload it to the computer when we got back. We have HIPAA compliant software and iPads for our social workers and nurses in all 3 towns. And then what are we doing now in FY 2026, our future goals? Number 1 is we've got to get this signed into municipal agreement for the grant, because at this point, they're holding back our next payment from us, but we're in pretty good shape. Hingham is signed, their Board of Health signed. If we get you guys to sign tonight, Situate's having 2 meetings next week, their Board of Health and Select Board, so we're getting close to getting this done. So the town, we've implemented a new local housing rental inspection program. We're implementing that as a group. Again, with the grant group, we're trying to develop a maternal child health program with the nurses. We're trying to launch a website. Our group is actually called the South Shore Public Health Collaborative. And that will have a lot of education and stuff on there for that. And then overall for our local department, we're going to continue to do our foundational public health services, which means, you know, doing food inspections 2 times a year in all our food establishments, and inspecting septic systems, rental housing camps, beaches, private wells. We're going to continue to partner with other departments like we did for that whole hoarding thing, provide community health education, tick prevention, mosquito-borne illness prevention, hoarding disorder, again, skin cancer screening, women's self-defense, and stop the bleed. And we're going to continue to partner with Safe Harbor and to provide the opioid prevention kits, access to counseling and social living. And that's it. If anybody has any questions.
Mr. Plex?
Just briefly, it looks like your grant is state. Do you rely on any federal money?
We do. They're not revealing to us what the proportion is federal to state. And, you know, of course, everybody's been asking them, you know, what's going on? They keep telling us it's business as usual. Don't worry about it. Keep spending your money. I think there's a lot of state money involved, but there definitely is some portion from federal, and we just don't know quite how much it is.
Okay, so some portion of the 433 is federal. It's
Mhm.
just opaque.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Grady?
How are we doing with the rental inspection program that we discussed? And the software, Chris?
It's a software thing. I have been pushing and pushing and pushing, and I get Ron Menard to help me because they don't listen to me, but when I tell Ron to bug them, they usually respond to him. Come to find out, I think there's been a lot of turmoil in their company. I think one of the 2 owners just left. We're so close. We have the module, but when we complete an inspection, we have to give somebody a certificate of habitability, and it needs some edits. I mean, I would think it would take 10 minutes to fix this thing, but you know, day after day, I keep bugging them. Is it done yet? Is it done yet? And It's not done yet. I know, it's embarrassing. We were supposed to start January 1st.
And weren't we gonna get another body?
Well, through this grant, but luckily I waited. Thank goodness I didn't hire somebody like in October when I thought, we're
Yeah.
gonna be ready to go by January 1st. So once we get rolling, Joni and I will do it ourselves for a little while and then we'll get rolling and we'll hire somebody to help
Okay.
us.
Thanks so much.
Mr. Frog?
Thank you. Paul actually had my question. That's great. And again, I would just say for everybody who's seen this presentation at home tonight, you can see that the needs of the community, how they've changed from what is being offered and is being able to be delivered by the Board of Public Health here in Cohasset. So I just said people to make sure they look at that. But thank you for all your efforts on this.
Great, thank you.
Great. Thank you, Pam. Great presentation. We appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. And I'll stick around for the IMA thing too.
Well, if we have a motion to move the IMA approval up now, we can keep Ms. Fahey here for a shorter amount of time. Do I have a
So
motion?
moved.
So moved? Is there a second?
Second,
Roll call?
Chris Plex, aye.
Paul Grady, aye.
David Farag, aye.
Ellen Mar, aye.
Thank you. And Ellen, should I just have you sign it, leave it in the office tomorrow or?
I'm out of the state. I believe I just sent Tracy Connors an email. I think she can sign on my behalf.
Oh, great.
But
Thank you.
don't the other board members need to sign?
No, it's just the chair.
Just the chair? Can the vice chair sign in my place?
Yeah.
Okay,
So the board has to vote to ratify it though. So before anyone signs anything, you need to just officially vote it. So you've had in the packet, I think Pam explained, we did originally just an MOU with the health
Right.
boards. And everyone ratified it. So now it's kind of ramped up a little extra level. So you have the documents been vetted by council, it's been vetted by all the boards. Our Board of Health's already approved it.
Hagen Board of Health's approved it.
So we're now just dotting the i's, crossing the t's, and it's worth $1.2 million. So it's
Well,
Okay.
let's get it over here then.
okay, so we need a
You're at the
motion. So
top.
can I have a motion to approve the Public Health Excellence Grant as presented by Ms. Fahey?
So moved.
May I have a
Second.
second? All in
Second.
favor, roll call?
Chris Plex, aye.
Paul Grady, aye.
David Farag, aye.
Ellen Mar, aye.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, next up, Community Services, Elder Affairs.
Megan, in the audience?
I'm sorry?
No, I was saying, so we were gonna promote Megan James. Just
Okay.
virtual.
Okay. All right. Hi, Megan James.
Hello.
Okay.
Hi, Meg Stewart, Director of Elder Affairs.
Paul Pierce, 39 Old Coach Road, member of the board.
Elaine Coyne, 237 Forest Ave, Treasurer of the Board.
Thank you for having us here this evening. We're here to talk about the proposed budget for FY 2026. We have a couple of line items just to discuss. We're seeking additional van driver on Mondays and Tuesdays. That's the first salary item, is the inclusion of a dedicated Monday, Tuesday person for trips and programming. And this is critical to enhancing our transportation services and maintaining access to resources, out-of-town trips, and medical appointments. Right now, we have great, thanks to Chief Sylvia, we have great access to fleet. And we really want to utilize that to the best of our abilities, and expanded programming with the vehicles that we do have is definitely an option. So we're seeking that third driver. And in addition to that, we're hopeful that the kitchen coordinator can receive full funding 100% through the town. Right now, it's 50% funded through the town and 50% funded through the formula grant. We are using our kitchen coordinator for an array of things. She is also helping to expand our lunch program from 25 participants to 36 participants, so that we don't have to say no to people who are trying to enroll in the program, sometimes on the same day. So really trying to be inclusive of that, which also ties into the operational increase in the amount of around $3,000 to further support the lunch program and the programming in general. So with that expansion, we're hopeful that we can offer a variety of not only paid programs, but free programs too, to be inclusive of everyone that is in the community. So those were our requests for FY 2026.
Our budget increase is only about 2%, 2 or 3% on an annual basis from last year's budget. And a good part of that is really on the converting the kitchen coordinator over from using the grant money. As far as the operating expenses go, there's just a few items that are increasing on us, and it's usually the things like the newsletter is costing us a lot of money per year. So we're looking into reducing that type of expense. But for the most part, we have a revolving fund that takes care of the programming, and that's working out well for us. And a couple of the new things that we have going on this year is are kind of significant events for us is we built the pergola, if you remember. We had our first meeting under the pergola when Meg's first day of work. So that was just 6 months ago. So now what's happening is we're going to spend the next 6 months evaluating what type of program we want to do under that pergola and how do we want to use that pergola, because once we start to use outdoor space, it's going to require different types of furnishings for different type of events. So that's something we want to evaluate. We've already looked into options on awnings or shade under the pergola. We do have a balance left from CPC money to be able to pay for some of that. But what's more important is understanding what we're going to use that space for, just like we had to decide what to use this space for when designing the building. So very similar to that. The other big event we have is 2 years ago, we applied for a grant for a new wheelchair van. And we were awarded that grant. And then there was a delay on the state side. So it's been about 1.5 years while we're waiting for that. And our van driver back here is waiting to get the key. So that should come, new wheelchair van, a month or two.
Then the one that we're waiting on delivery,
Yeah.
it'll probably be May.
May, okay. Yeah. So that's a much larger in May,
Getting the van.
finally, yeah. So it's gonna go almost 2.5 years because we went to Capitol for that and they said, seek another route, see what you can do. So we did have the state grant that took 1.5 years. So that's a big, large F-350. So that's why we're expanding the van drivers. We reorganized the fleet with Bob Sylvia and getting vehicles that are more appropriate for the folks that we're bringing around town. So we had 2 large vans that we were hauling people around in that they were too cumbersome to get people in and out of. So we've got a minivan, the electric car, the larger wheelchair van, and then the current van that we have, that's going to be sold and a new van is taking its place that has a higher roof and better seating for folks. So those are the two big events for FY26 for us.
A couple of other things to note, just some highlights. In 2024, we saw 16,908 people for events and programming. In 2023, we saw 14,594, and 2022, 11,504. So we've seen gradual increases. If you got a copy of the presentation that was sent, you can see that our highest demographic in participants is age 80 to 84. at 23.3%. Our second highest is aged 85 plus at 19.5%. Third is 70 to 74 at 18.7%. And then fourth, 75 to 79 at 18%. So we're really low when we look at the age 60 to 64 at 6.4%. So also looking into ways that we can incorporate other people in these groups into.
That's the denial age. I'm in that bracket.
So we've really increased a lot of our access to exercise programs this year. We've added quite a few, which I think has contributed to more visits to the center. So in doing a needs assessment in the beginning on programming and exercise, the request was we would like things in the afternoons on Mondays. So we've tried to incorporate more of this into our structure, and it's proven to be successful so far, and we hope to continue to do more of this moving forward, which is why there was a slight increase in the programming.
Yeah, so for those listening that are 60 to 64,
Yep.
we have bocce every Thursday. And if you can't be outside, it's cornhole indoors. And that's a waiting list sometimes, so we have.
Great, thank you. Any questions from the board?
None from me. Thank you.
No, I think you're doing a fantastic job. And by the way, I haven't met you, but welcome aboard. I hear you're doing a great job.
Thanks.
Heard a lot of good things about you.
Mr. Farag?
Great, thank you. I want to echo Paul's words as well as thanks. I think this is the first time you've been in front of the select board, so welcome. And thank you for the job that you're doing. The amount of programming that goes on here is fantastic. And for anybody out there, and you brought up the statistics, but anybody 60 plus that has not been here, please come down and check out the programming that they have, the speakers that you have, all the the lunches, everything else that goes on here. It's really great, and it's important for the community and the senior center as a whole, which we're having our meeting here tonight in, is one of the gems of Cohasset, and not only of Cohasset, but of the South Shore. So thank you for all the work that the Elder Affairs Board does, that you're doing, and we look to support you as much as possible.
Next Wednesday, this room will be full of corned beef and cabbage.
Oh, corned beef and cabbage on Wednesday, yes. Yeah.
Right, up the 13th, so St. Patrick's.
Saw it on your menu walking by. I was like,
Sold out, waiting.
I believe it.
Wow. Well, Meg, I have a question, or actually a request of some sort. Mr. Kearse mentioned the fact that the newsletter, can get somewhat expensive. And we have bemoaned the fact that we don't have a town newspaper anymore. We all used to get our news from the Mariner, all on Friday. Everybody got the news at the same time. And now we're a social media world and an electronic world. Have you had a chance maybe to assess how many of the people who come and take part in the services and programming are electronically savvy and how many aren't? And is it something worthwhile to kind of explore getting more electronic training for people? I don't know.
Certainly. I think that we have the option now. I actually worked with my senior center this week to enroll in an automatic newsletter, but we actually have a heavy amount of participants who really look forward to the paper mailing. It is not very cost effective, I do agree. And I'm going to work into looking into some of the people that are advertisers for the newsletter to see where we can cut costs regarding that, because I think that's an opportunity that exists. Additionally, I always think it's worth considering looking in and asking the question to people. I know that there was a trip today that occurred to Target with our transportation driver in the back. And one of them had noted that, well, the trip wasn't in the newsletter, so we didn't know about it. And it's probably the only thing that we did not put in the newsletter. So I think that there's a heavily reliant group of people on that paper newsletter but I would never rule it out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, I mean, we struggle with getting, you know, the facts out and things that happen and the decisions that are made in a timely and accurate manner and, you know, to everybody in town. So I was just thinking about, you know, the community that goes to Wilcott Commons and what is their preferred method of communication.
We have talked about this amongst community services as a team as well, because we're all doing individual newsletters. So Recreation has theirs and Library has theirs and Elder Affairs has theirs. And so there's been a lot of talk over the last year of, you know, can we start to combine to save funds, because it is expensive. It's expensive for all of us. And we do find that it does provide traffic to all of our departments. And I think it's one of those things somebody gets in the mail and they can just flip through really quickly. And a lot of times when we're talking about things online, you have to seek that information. But if it gets mailed to you, it kind of gets plopped in front of you and you can have your coffee and review it. So that's something that we've been thinking about to try to save some funding, is bringing some of those newsletters together, even if it's just every once in a while. But there's a lot of workflow that needs to be changed. It's not as easy said than done, but that's something that's been a hope for a long time.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you very much for coming and presenting. And Meg, you know, congratulations on your quick start and how well everything is going with Elder Affairs and the Senior Center. And we appreciate having you on board.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, next up, I've lost my agenda.
The review of warrant.
I'm sorry?
The review of warrant is up next.
Review of the warrant. Yes, thank you, Mr. Senior, for bailing me out on that. Yes, review of the warrant.
So starting tomorrow night, advisor will start clicking through warrant articles and giving recommendations. So you will be able to start getting those next week. The capital budget votes are ongoing. The CPC, as you all know, is ongoing. I have to pull together a couple of these other ones and finalize the amount for stabilization and the one-time costs. And I'm still, you know, and next week we talk about the schools. So that's like our big number. Once they're a little more refined as to where they are this year and next year, we'll be in good shape. And then on the 15th, not the 18th, 2 weeks, we'll talk about the RTF. So and at that point, you'll really start grinding through a lot of these. And the sewer commission is scheduling a public hearing on that citizens petition for expanding the sewer district. So that's all in motion. Actually, no planning, you've already referred to the planning board. So.
Okay.
That's what that's kind of.
I'm sorry.
No, sorry, that's what we're grinding through the process.
Okay, so we do have to get our application in to CPC for Town Hall for 41 Highland Ave. And I owe you a cover letter, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and the actual application?
That's it. I think I know all the materials are pulled together. So and I don't know if your letter has to be part of that, or we can just send it separately.
Okay, well, I think when we talked about it, we thought it would give it some context. You know, so I can't promise it this week, but maybe this weekend. And
they don't meet till the end of the month, so.
Oh, okay, okay. So we'll have to make sure we get on their schedule for the end of the month.
I think that's been the chair's already been contacted, chair Reed's already contacted, so he's aware.
Okay, great.
We'll also get materials to the members of the CPC before their meeting, so they're all well versed in it before they actually meet.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, anyone have any questions on the warrant? No, okay. Yeah, as Chris mentioned, our meeting next Tuesday, we will start, it will be a joint meeting with the school committee and advisory and Superintendent Shannon, and it'll be top of the agenda to review the school budget. So when we get the materials, and Chris, can we try to get them on Friday so everyone has plenty of time to digest it?
We'll work with our counterparts in the schools to get you everything they can.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I encourage everyone to really go through it. Because as Chris said, it's our biggest budget, and we know that there've been, in somewhat, I don't want to use crisis, but it's been challenging. Okay, so moving on to town manager update.
So we're meeting pretty regularly, so I think you're all pretty versed in everything. The only pitch I'll make tonight is we still are seeking some staff members, so if anyone's interested in a position with the town, go to the town's HR website. We have a great website that's part of the town's website. Lots of information about working here and the employee handbook and a lot of cool stuff. And we continue to see people at Public Works and also right here at Elder Affairs. I know I'm actually meeting with a finalist on one position this week. So one position is already filled up. I think they're still seeking an assistant director. So if anyone is interested in those positions, or you know anybody, put on your social media pages. That'll be great. And I think that's, I think and Chief Docker continues to look for paramedics. So if you know who's a paramedic, please point them our way. That's it.
Okay. All right, then we'll move on to select board comments. Mr. Plex,
Nothing for me tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Grady,
No, I'm good tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Farag.
Thank you. I just want to bring up that for everybody home and in the town that you've seen from not only the budget, but from the buildings that are going to be redone between the town hall, police station, fire station, that all of these, while you look at them individually as far as for different projects, that really the town is going through a big reset regarding town government. And all of these improvements, not only to the buildings, but to creating the new ones, are bringing the town into the 21st century. And that this whole reset of the town government on the town side is going to be something that's going to last for at least 50 to 100 years. So it's very important, so that for everyone at home, if they're watching tonight, or if they're watching this on YouTube afterwards, to please keep watching the meetings of the Capital Budget Advisory Board and the Select Board running up to town meeting, because we're going to have some important decisions to make, not only at that meeting, but also in the fall town meeting as well. And those changes are going to be permanent and positive for the delivery of services for all Cohasset citizens. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I'm just going to put in my weekly plug for residents to look to serve on the various boards and committees that we have. There's 30 of them. We need like 150 people to volunteer their time. I'd like to give a shout out to Kevin Perry. I thought he did an excellent job on the explanation of all the boards and committees. He posted it on the Cohasset Town Government Facebook page. And I reposted it myself, and I think it was just a good explanation, and we should continue to repost that. And while we're on social media, I think I'd like to encourage everyone, if they have a question or if they don't know what's going on, to go to the Town of Cohasset Government Facebook page, because you'll get the facts there. Town manager posts a weekly update. Sometimes it's a video update, sometimes it's a written update, announcements. There was a plethora of comments on 143 this weekend. They didn't know about the dump, closing at 3 and why, and instead of putting it on a social page, find your information on the Town of Cohasset Government page, because that's where you'll get the most accurate and up-to-date information. And I encourage anyone who's on social media to follow that page, like that page, and then feel free to share anything that's on it. So that's all I have. Next up, we have approval of minutes. We have minutes of February 4th, 2025 and February 25th, 2025. Are there any? I'm going to do it in one motion unless we have comments or edits on either set.
There was no changes, so.
No changes? Okay. Are you guys okay if we do it in one motion?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so can I have a motion to approve the minutes of February 4th, 2025 and February 25th, 2025?
So moved.
Second,
All in favor, roll call?
Chris Plex, aye.
Paul Grady, aye.
David Frog, aye.
Ellen Mar, aye. Okay, there's no topics not reasonably anticipated, so can I have a motion to adjourn at 8:40 PM?
So moved.
Second,
All in favor, roll call?
Chris Plex, aye.
Paul Grady, aye.
David Frog, aye.
Ellen Mar, aye. Thank you very much. See you
Good
next
night,
week.
everybody.
Good night.